Good morning. Our gathering song is Whoever You Are by Adam Pod, and we'll sing it a number of times and the words will be projected, and so join in whenever you're ready.
For millennia, the Western Abenaki people have called this land home. They have loved and cared for this land. We now have the privilege of gathering here as a religious community. Let us do so in honoring this legacy of love and stewardship. The Unitarian Church of Montpelier is a Unitarian Universalist congregation. We welcome all into this community that affirms the worth and dignity of every person and the interdependence we share with all existence. We are so glad you're with us in our time of worship this morning. My name is Anna, my pronouns are she, her, and as one of today's worship associates, I extend to you a warm welcome. Thank you for joining us in this time of worship. Today our service honors Pride Month. We welcome you to this special service and deeply appreciate your presence and fellowship. It is always a pleasure to have newcomers and guests join us for worship. If this is your first or second time visiting and you wish to do so, you are invited to stand or wave your hand so we might offer you a special welcome. We are so glad you're here. Any of you who are newcomers to our congregation and the worship service are invited to fill out our welcome form available at the hospitality table in the vestry during coffee hour so we can connect with you more fully. Now, we can all join in the welcoming by taking a few moments to turn to your neighbor in the pews and share a few words of greeting. Thank you. I don't know how long this goes on. Thank you for sharing these warm greetings. You are invited to continue your conversations during the service after coffee hour.
Good morning. My name is Elaine Ball, and my pronouns are she, they. It is a joy to be a part of such an engaged community. There are many ways to take part in the life of our community, and here are just a few. You may have heard already that today, following our service and congregational photo, we will celebrate the end of our 2022-23 church year with an ice cream social and potluck brunch. Whether you remember to bring food or not, everyone is welcome to this celebration, an opportunity to say goodbye to Rowan and Bertus. There are also a few tables downstairs with exciting information. The climate action team is inviting everyone to a tour of LaRose Farm in Waitsfield, a farm practicing enhancing biodiversity, on Thursday, June 22nd. You can RSVP at the table downstairs or by emailing Sandra Haddock or Harris Webster. The Women's Alliance would like to invite everyone to sign pages of a memory book for Norma Raymond, who will be turning 100 years old on July 15th. We will also be hosting a birthday celebration for Norma here on the 15th from 1 to 4. Next Sunday, June 18th, is the first Sunday of our summer meditation series here in the vestry at 10 a.m. Those will continue through September 3rd, and they will not be offered online. However, there are also online Zoom meditations on the first and third Tuesdays at 10 a.m. In honor of Pride Sunday, we've also set up a welcoming congregation table with books for all ages to check out for learning more about and celebrating all LGBTQIA+ people. If you would like more information about the history of the Welcoming Congregation Committee, which was active here at UCM for many years, and or the process of renewing our Welcoming Congregation certification, please sign up at the membership and hospitality table for more information. And be sure to read the summer e-newsletter, and you can pick up a paper copy of summer event dates also at the table downstairs. I would like to introduce our Prelude. This morning, our Prelude is by the great 19th century Russian composer, Tchaikovsky. It is generally acknowledged as historic fact that Tchaikovsky was gay. In the Soviet era, however, all references to his homosexuality were expunged from any official record, and the Russian government continues today to deny it. It is their loss. We invite you to enter more deeply into this time of worship with our Prelude.
Our call to worship comes from an anonymous source. When the way is difficult and dangerous, let us still choose what is good and just.
When evil comes to break us down and break us apart, let us still choose to carry on with each other.
When power from on high strikes fear in our hearts, let us still choose the courage to persist. For
we know that the love and spirit of life which abides in us will not be overcome. Come, let us worship together. And we're going to sing an old African American spiritual called We're Gonna Sit at the Welcoming Table. We thought it was appropriate for this service, knowing the history and the context for which this song came from. It came from people who were not at the welcoming table, and sometimes still are not. So it's a proclamation saying, we're going to sit at the welcoming table. And for right now, we know that it's not just people of color who are not at that welcoming table right now. It's also the queer community who are not at that welcoming table. So in unity and in unison, let us sing that we're going to sit at the welcoming table as a proclamation. Because that table needs more welcoming. So let us stand in body and spirit and sing with uplifted voices. We're going to sit at the welcoming table number 407, and it will be projected on the screen. So if you want to have your hands free, just saying, you're welcome to it.
Let us now light the chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. This morning, we welcome Lotus to welcome the chalice. As Lotus lights the chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those watching on the live stream to light a chalice at home if you have one nearby. We light this flame, an enduring symbol of our collective commitment to lead with truth and compassion. Now, let us join our voices in saying the congregational covenant. We covenant to speak honestly and listen deeply to each other and the voice within, to treat each other with compassion and honor our differences, take responsibility for the impact our words, actions, and inactions have on each other, support each other in times of need and of grief, celebrate the beauty and joy in our lives, honor the gifts of the past, and be gentle with each other as we grow. Encourage each other in the brave work of creating a more beloved community in a healthy, sustainable world. And forgive each other and start again.
Good morning. What a joy to be together in our bright array of rainbow colors this morning. Today's Sunday service, as Elaine mentioned earlier, marks the end of our 2022-2023 church year, which began this past September, and we prepare to enter the summer season and will reconvene in this space again as a community on September 10th. In this time of transition, we dedicate a few moments now to reflect on the past church year and the summer to come. Our worship theme this month is the path of delight. As you think back on your experience of this church community this past year, what moments have brought you delight? As you imagine the summer months ahead, what moments and sources of delight do you anticipate? At the end of the pews, you'll find a small bundle of fabric and a marker, and in just a moment, you will be invited to add a word or a phrase or maybe even a drawing to a slip of fabric in response to either or both of those questions. And after the service, we will take our strips of paper outside to the trees in the yard and affix them to our lovely trees. So let me repeat the questions for you before you begin to reflect and to write. As you think back on your experience of the past church year, what moments have brought you delight? And as you imagine the summer months ahead, what moments and sources of delight do you anticipate? You can take a couple of minutes now to write a brief response, and then if you wish, you can share aloud with someone near you in the pews. And if you are joining today on our live stream, you're welcome to add your responses in the chat. Please begin. There's lots of wonderful sharing going on. Let's take just a few more moments to wrap up your thoughts. Thank you, everyone. I hope you'll continue this wonderful sharing out on the churchyard after the service. Please bring your fabric that you've written on or drawn on with you outside for the coffee hour, and you can leave your markers and any of the unused fabric right in the pews.
As our last Sunday of the regular church year is today, it is also our last Sunday of spiritual exploration for children and youth. And today we're having the preschool, kindergarten, and the elementary groups are meeting in their spaces, and we'll be coming back before the final hymn to join in and ending the church year with all of us together in here. And the middle schoolers will be meeting right after the service in the preschool room to make ice cream and compare it with the ice cream being served at the potluck. What a science experiment. At this time, I would like to invite everyone to join in singing the children's parting song as our children go to their groups.
Spiritual act, and our generosity is a form of love and gratitude that helps us to practice the values of Unitarian Universalism with our collective resources. Each month through the UCM Community Pouch Program, we share a part of our collection with an important church fund or community organization aligned with our values. This month's Community Pouch recipient is Gun Sense Vermont Education Fund. It is the choice of our youth at UCM. This fund educates and informs Vermont residents on all aspects of gun violence, including the intersection of gun violence with poverty, trauma, suicide, and domestic violence. They work with students and survivors, along with local, regional, and national partners to promote civic engagement to reduce the impact of gun violence on us all. Half of our cash offerings will go to our pouch recipient, and the other half will directly support the mission and ministry of our congregation. We're so grateful for each and every one of you for your generosity in its many forms, and your offering will now be gratefully received.
I invite you now into a time of meditation and prayer, allowing your body to settle in, feeling the goodness of our musical offering and of having shared in song together, allowing that goodness to settle into your body. In these few moments, allow yourself to simply be here. Allow your attention to come into full presence with this moment, alongside the bodies next to you on these creaking pews. Breathing in and out. Feeling the presence of your one self within this greater community. We have each arrived here this morning with joys and sorrows on our hearts. Some of you have been touched by joyful events in recent days, graduations and celebrations, moments of delight with friends and loved ones, returning home. Some of you have been touched by challenging events in recent days, health struggles and setbacks, the deaths of loved ones, financial hardship. Know that you are held in love by this community and by a greater love that envelops us all. I want to share a sorrow from our church community with you. On behalf of Ryan, Christina, and Julia Kane, we light a candle of sorrow for the death of Christina's beloved father, Steve Schultz, who passed away peacefully, surrounded by his family, last Saturday, June 3rd, with the strawberry moon. Steve was deeply grateful for the love, support, and welcome he felt from this UCM community. Christina, Ryan, and Julia, our hearts are with you. During this Pride Month, let us also hold in our hearts all those who are currently facing attacks on their human dignity and rights because of their gender identity and expression and sexual orientation. Let us extend our love and compassion to all who live in fear, to all who continue to assert their dignity and worth, to all who continue to resist, who shine on with courage and persistence. And I share with you now these words for reflection and meditation by Lois Van Leer for Pride. They will march, walk, wheel, dance, shimmy, and shake, block upon block of undulating color, flesh, banners, signs, clothing or lack thereof. Hands raised, hands linked, apart, together, singing, shouting, chanting, silent, joyous, tearful, nervous, afraid, proud, defiant, angry, happy, delirious, tentative, ecstatic, courageous, brave, free. The stereotype, the unrecognizable, the flamboyant, the ordinary, the parent, the child, the runaway, the lost, the lonely, the found. Gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, queer, intersexed, questioning, allies. Those who taunt and jeer, their banners of hate 10 feet tall. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Burn in hell. The other slogans, straight but not narrow, I love my gay child, standing on the side of love. One day a year, 1 out of 365, Mardi Gras out of season. Festive, bacchanalian, tame, booths, food, shopping. Underneath there is a history, resistance. It was the marginalized of the marginalized, drag queens, transvestites, the butch and the femme, who, unlike Rosa Parks, did not sit down, but in their tired rage stood up, rose up, fought back, holding the police captive in the bars they had come to raid, their weapons, their oppression, their hands, beer bottles. Stonewall, 6 days of riots in New York, June 1969. A year later, a march in Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, LA, San Fran, and now any weekend in June, anywhere around the world, Pride. Why do we march? For those who are not able, for those who have been murdered, for those who are ravaged by disease, for those who are still beaten, still taunted, still harassed, still victims, still targets. Why do we march? Because some truths ain't self-evident, because all men ain't protected equal, and we love a good party. They will march, walk, wheel, dance, shimmy, and shake, block upon block of undulating color, flesh, banners, signs, clothing or lack thereof. Hands raised, hands linked, apart, together, singing, shouting, chanting, silent. Joyous, tearful, nervous, afraid, proud, defiant, angry, happy, delirious, tentative, ecstatic, courageous, brave, free. Let us join now in a time of quiet meditation together.
Wow, y'all. My last sermon with you all, for a while at least. And I had an anxiety dream last night. I had a dream about this service, that everything that could go wrong went wrong. I left my sermon at home. I had to run home and get it, but there was something happened and I couldn't get to it. And then when I finally got home, I left my keys here. The audio wasn't working. It was, and then when I finally got in, I had to break in, I finally got here, and then Betty Roy told me, and she was in my dream, and she told me, well, we just kept on going because you left. And I was like, so I woke up in a panic. But then I breathed easily because of all the work that we have done together in the past 3 years. I was able to say, you know what? It's all right. Everything's going to be all right. And everything's going to happen the way that it has to happen. If I have to go extemporaneous, I will do that. And it's all because of the love, the care, as well as the grace, the forgiveness, and the joy that we have shared together. I will be leaving in July and will be taking a position as a part-time assistant minister at the First Unitarian Church of Rochester. So going back home. Yeah. And you will see me again, but for a while. Now, I will begin with a poem from an African-American poet. And of course, if you don't know me by now, right? So, we wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting our tears and sighs? Nay, let them see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but, oh Lord, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but, oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet, and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. Now, this month is Pride Month, a celebration of LGBTQ plus IA rights, voices, and stories. And during Pride Month, we celebrate the extraordinary power that has brought the queer community all together. The power of love, of acceptance, of togetherness, the kind of power that ensures every queer person can be whoever we want to be, whoever we become, and whoever we were born to be. Love is love, and love will always be love, regardless of gender identity, sexuality, orientation, and status. Love is love. But there's a reason why I started the poem with a poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar. He wasn't queer, that we know about, though I have my suspicions, but I ain't one to gossip. But we have a crisis on our hands, a battle that is being waged right now. I was just at a conference in Boston with one of my other parts of my life, civic learning and democratic engagement, with mostly professionals in higher ed. And some of my colleagues came from California with professional development monies and funds available that pays for travel to conferences. But they do not cover travel to what they call no-fly states. States with policies, lack of protections that are deemed anti-trans or anti-queer. And out of the 50 states, 23 were on the list. 23. In fact, in the past year, there have been over 600 anti-queer bills that have been introduced across the country. So Pride Month is also a reminder of our progress in the fight for equality, from Stonewall to the Supreme Courts, where trailblazers fought and organized and campaigned to change not only policies and legislations, but hearts and minds. And people are just trying to live a more authentic life, full of love. We know that there is still more work to be done, that while visibility of queer people is at an all-time high and younger, so is the anti-queer rhetoric, particularly towards trans and non-binary youth. To the young people out there whose pride celebrations may be taking place more privately, know that you are never, ever alone. We see you, we love you, and we are here for you and will always be. Get my tissues out. Some of you have heard my story of the UU church ladies during coffee hour in Rochester who affirmed me and loved me here and loved me queer, where I was able to discover and live who I was born to be, but you don't know the whole story. And most people don't, not even my family. So I came out to myself when I was in junior year in high school. I was 16 years old. And I was into musicals, surprise, surprise, right? But I was the only one I knew out of 1,000 students in my school. The only one I knew. And then I went to a Holiness Pentecostal church. I was a preacher's kid. With all of that and all of my community, even the way I walked was being criticized. The way I spoke was being criticized. I had to lower the timbre of my voice and monitored how I walked and make sure I didn't sashay. It was hard. And in one point, I almost took my own life. It was a dark point, but I didn't. But I almost did. So suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people aged between 10 and 24. And lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning youth are significantly increased risk. Queer youth are more than 4 times likely to attempt suicide than their peers. It is estimated that more than 1.8 million queer youth between the ages of 13 and 24 have seriously considered suicide each year in the United States. And at least one attempts suicide every 45 seconds. Last year alone, 45% of queer youth seriously considered attempting suicide, and including more than half of transgender and non-binary youth. Last year, 60% of youth reported feeling discriminated against. Yeah, we're woke, aren't we? 15% reported being threatened by conversion therapy, including 1 out of 5 trans and non-binary youth. Queer young people in the United States who experience this type of victimization reported attempting suicide at more than double the rate than those who had not. Protecting queer youth from discrimination and victimization is vital to suicide prevention. Even queer athletes are being impacted like never before as they are living their truths openly. And yet, more with the 600 anti-queer bills that are across the country, more than 60 of them sought to ban trans and non-binary young people from participating in school sports. many young queer athletes are being sidelined. So, what can we do as UUs? One thing is clear. Having an affirming community empowers queer young people to see that they are worthy of love and to see a bright future for themselves. Affirmation, it has an enormous impact. In fact, one accepting adult can decrease a queer young person's risk of suicide by 40%. Just one. We ask queer, so I went to the Trevor Project, and by the way, great resources there. You can look that up. Google is a fantastic thing sometimes. And they asked queer young people to write a letter to someone who had supported them on the journey. And I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from these letters. Dear siblings, when it came to calling me by my new name and everything that came with it, you all adapted right away. You said, as long as you're healthy and happy, nothing else matters. Those words will always be in my heart. And for that, I am and will always be grateful to you to have you as my siblings. Another one writes, Dear Mama, thank you for understanding me when no one else would. Thank you for being there for me when no one else was. When I was in elementary school, I asked you what you would do if you had a queer child, and you flat out told me you would never support them. Thank you for proving yourself wrong despite all of the hardships our family has faced. The last one says, Mama, you cried when I told you who I was, but you tried. You tried to get my pronouns right, even if you didn't fully understand. You've grown so much, and I know I have your full support now more than ever. You're trying your best, and I'll try and explain my identity as much as you need. I love you now more than ever before. Thank you for being my best friend, no matter my name. So I ask you, Unitarian Church of Montpelier, choose ye this day which side you are on. The sidelines, the side of hate and oppression, or the side of love and affirmation. What can you do? Asking pronouns rather than assuming them and misgendering someone. You can say amen to that. When someone is misgendered, acknowledge it genuinely and use their right pronouns. Note that pronouns may change throughout life's journey. Flow along with it. Pronouns and grammar do work together. But don't use grammar to misgender people or as a reason to misgender someone. Affirm them anyway. You may never understand. Love anyway. You may never feel what it feels like to be queer. Love anyway. You may never understand why they call themselves queer. Love anyway. You may never get it. Love anyway. Please, for all of our sakes, don't sit on the sidelines of this struggle. Side with love, side with hope, side with compassion. We must stretch. We must let go, and we must love. Choose ye this day which side you are on, the sideline, the side of hate, the oppression, or the side of love and affirmation. Are you on the side of love, UCM? I said, are you on the side of love, UCM? Then let go. Stretch. Love unconditionally. Love genuinely. As you all have loved me. I was going to do a poem to finish us off, but I think I already said what I need to say. Amen. Amen. Ashe. Amen. And blessed be. Now remain standing as you are able, as we sing our closing hymn, and I do not have it down here, but it will be Love Will Guide Us. And just as the last one, the lyrics will be on the screen, just in case you want to clap your hands, sway a little bit. Feel free to get into the aisles if you want to, as we sing our closing hymn, Love Will Guide Us.
I invite you to take a seat. Thank you. Thank you, Virtus, for blessing us with that word and that charge. We are so blessed to have this worship team and to have had Virtus with us for the last 3 years. I hope you will join in the celebration for Virtus and Rowan taking place during the coffee hour after the service. And on this final Sunday of the church year, I also want to especially acknowledge some of the other people who make our worship services not only possible, but filled with beauty, meaning, and delight. Music is an integral and essential component of our worship services. And it is not always an easy task to identify musical selections that not only fit the theme of the service, but also meet the diverse, very diverse spiritual needs and musical tastes of this congregation. Music director Danya Prince and pianist, organist Eliza Thomas meet this challenge every week, sharing with us music that uplifts and that grows our souls. And so I would like to invite Danya and Eliza forward. Thank you. Thank you for sharing in that robust thanks. It's really I have to say, such a pleasure that I get to offer thanks and gratitude for so many wonderful people who help make this church happen and our worship services. I also want to offer a word of thanks now to the church volunteers who have dedicated many hours of their time and their shared gifts with us as members of the Worship and Arts Committee and as worship associates this past church year. Our worship team volunteers this past year included Beth Damon, Betty Roy, Eliza Homick, Pat Karstensen, Sally Armstrong, Sarah Franklin, Steve Finner, Del Waterhouse, Ginny Sassaman, Leah Greenberg, Margot Prendergast, Pam Walker, and Tom Schurston. Thank you to each and every one of you. Welcome back to our youth who have returned to the sanctuary. As we close our service, we extinguish our chalice and carry with us its flame of truth, the warmth of community, and the spark of hope into the days, the weeks, and the summer months ahead. And as we do so, let us say together our mission statement. We welcome all as we build a loving community to nurture each person's spiritual journey, serve human need, and protect the earth, our home.
I had some closing words and was inspired to change them. So I would like to share a poem by Andrea Gibson from their poetry book, You Better Be Lightning. It's called Queer Youth Are 5 Times More Likely to Die by Suicide. Queer youth are 5 times more likely to die by suicide means you lived 5 times harder than you should have had to still have a body when you graduated high school. Means hate worked 5 times harder to make your spirit its wishbone. Means when your mother asked what was wrong, you were 5 times more likely to believe you would lose her if you spoke the truth. Means you were told 5 times more often you would go to hell when you died. It means burning for eternity seemed 5 times more doable than another day in the school lunchroom. Means you were 5 times more inclined to triple padlock your diary. Means you were 5 times more likely to stop writing your story down. Means I write my heart out now. I've graffitied billboards with pages of my diary that the bullies started the rumors with. I tie the page to the end of a kite string and run a crooked line through the straightest mile of the Bible Belt. That page is a protest sign. That page is a bandana washing the tear gas out of my lover's eyes. Queer youth are 5 times more likely to die by suicide. Means I sneak into fascist sleepovers and Sharpie my pronouns under the faces of senators who voted to criminalize my kisses when I was 19. I cut the hate out of my mail and papier-mâché Christmas ornaments for queer couples whose parents do not want to know their grandchildren. I hack high school curriculums and delete every test that does not ask what the P in Marsha P. Johnson stands for. I walk through graveyards with a chisel, correcting the names of trans kids whose families said no when asked, "Can you just let me live?" I pace the suburbs with spray paint, editing the welcome mats of homophobes until they all speak the truth that they personally burned the roof over the heads of queer youth are 5 times more likely to die by suicide. Means there were days I thirst for my own silence but walk through the desert screaming instead. Because I, like most of my queer friends, don't have a child. I have millions, from Nebraska to Chechnya to the Baptist church where I grew up. My pride in them is a parade. I know won't keep all of them alive, but I keep cutting my diary into confetti to throw at their hopes when they float by, scared or furious or laughing or in love, and desperate for the headline to say the queer youth are 5 times more likely to offer to walk their younger siblings home from school, to notice the different accents of sparrows, to find an eyelash and spend 20 minutes trying to pick what to wish for, 5 times more likely to never outgrow blanket forts, to know there was a word for the scent in the air after it rains, to see lifelines look like telephone wires and call a friend who's having a bad day. 5 times more likely to adore the last man who walked on the moon just because he wrote his daughter's initials there. To know there was no universe in which they would not be proud of their own children. Queer youth are more likely to see you. Know how you dream of seeing yourself. To write something in your yearbook that will get you through the next decade. To spot a stranger crying and to ask if there's anything they can do to help. 5 times more likely to need us to do the same.
Thank you, Elaine, for that impromptu but sobering and hopefully hopeful poem. We're going to end our service with our prelude, Postlude. We're not going back, we're going forward. Our Postlude, Born This Way by our UCM choir by Lady Gaga.
So you might notice that, actually, it doesn't quite look that way. I was going to say our choir numbers are somewhat diminished today. Everybody's okay, they just couldn't be here. But what it means is that we're going to be counting on you to back us up for the closing of this song so that we can all go out of this year, wonderful church year, on a joyful noise. And so the way that's going to go, the words are, we are born this way, hey. We are born this way, hey. I'm on the right track, baby. I am born this way, hey. I am born this way, hey. I am born this way, hey. I'm on the right track, baby. I am born this way, hey. I am born this way, hey. I am born this way, hey. I'm on the right track, baby. I am born this way, hey. I'll let you know when it's your time. And it's going to go faster than that, so be ready.